You're listening to another episode of the Coaster101 podcast. I'm Andrew Stillwell, and I'm keeping the trend going with some great guests this season. I'm going to bring him in. He's got a great introduction. He is an Emmy-winning journalist, television host for WGN Morning News. He is the roller coaster bureau chief for that television station. And the thing I'm arguably most jealous about, you take away the Emmy, you take away all these other things. He's the proud owner / experiencer of a double rollback on Top Thrill Dragster on the one day it was known as Top Thrill Cubster, Marcus Leshock. Marcus, wow. Welcome to the Coaster101 podcast.
What an intro. I've done it all. There's nothing left to do. I retire and it can ride off into the sunset.
I love it. I mean, appreciate you joining us, first of all. Since we started this podcast back 2020, you've been on my radar of people I just want to have on the podcast. I think you've got a really interesting story. Obviously, you've got a platform where you can talk about roller coasters to the people of Chicago and beyond, and you're not afraid to let your coaster nerd flag fly a little bit. I love that.
Yeah, and I mean, just to give people like an example of like when I started, when I was growing up, I would watch, I was always a coaster geek, right? But I would watch the news, and whenever there was like a news reporter who would do coaster stories on the news, they were always out of fear, right? Everything was always like, oh, I'm so scared. Am I gonna be able to get through this? Oh, it's so scary. And so when I finally got working in the news as a feature reporter, doing all kinds of things, when I did my first story, I'm like, you know what? These are fun. Like, I want somebody to be having fun on these and to show people that coasters are actually a good time. It doesn't have to be all about, oh, this is such a scary drop or something. Drops can be fun. So that became sort of my thing. And I think it separated me from everybody else in the media of like, oh, here's a guy who's like hooting and hollering and having a good time on coasters as opposed to like closing his eyes and freaking out. That makes sense.
And doing those live shots, and we've all been to the media days, and we've seen the press who are like, oh my gosh, I don't like roller coasters, and they make really good, they make exciting content out of that. How did you first become a theme park fan? I mean, obviously, as we're all younger, we kind of have this fascination with roller coasters. Some of us as adults, we kind of let it go, but others of us, we hang on to it, and we have segments on podcasts or on, crazy morning news shows.
Right.
But, what's your coaster history here?
I grew up, WGN-TV is in Chicago. Where are you based again? I can't remember.
That's okay. I'm down in Charlotte.
Okay, that's right. That's what I thought. So like Carowinds, is that where you're from? Is that your home park? Okay.
It is. Yeah.
So I grew up in the Chicagoland area, the suburbs. And so Great America has always been my place. I was born in 1980. It was, Marriott's Great America when I was born, all these different owners over the years and everything else. But like Great America has been the place that we would go. And so we would go like everybody else in the area. You'd get in the car with the family and you would drive up to Great America, and driving up 94, which is the highway that it's on. And you see the American Eagles helix there when you're pulling up. And as a kid, like that was your beacon. Like when you saw the Eagle and it was like, oh, we're there. And there was going to be a whole day of fun and everything else happening there. And I was always, I'll be honest, I wasn't like a big thrill seeker as a kid. I didn't really get into riding the big rides. I was always too scared until I was probably close to middle school or like late elementary school. And there was a ride at Great America back in the day called Shockwave. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm sure you are, but people around here, like that was a big aero looper that was at the front of the park. And it was like the biggest ride there. And it was always so scary. You would walk in, you'd see the big Shockwave drop. And that was the first big ride. I'd gone on Whizzer before that and a couple other little things at the park. And like we had a park called Kittyland around us in Santa's Village. And I would go on the little coasters there. But that was the first one when I brought a friend with me. It was me, my dad, and a friend of mine from school who came with us that one time. And he's like, well, I'm riding this. And my dad's like, I finally want to ride it because I would never ride it before. So my dad wouldn't. So I like peer pressure, got on the ride. I was so scared. And when we hit that first drop, it was something that like hit me in my veins. It was like, wait, this is awesome. This isn't scary at all. It was like this awesome feeling. And then after that, I rode everything. And it was just, that was it. It was like ripping the Band-Aid off. And suddenly I realized I actually love this. And I wanted to ride every roller coaster I could for the rest of my life, basically. But I think if it's funny because I think if like my dad would have forced me younger when I wasn't ready, it could have backfired, you know?
100%.
So he like did the perfect thing, like just waited and was patient. And when it was the right time, I went on it and the rest is history. So it's kind of how it started, but I always really loved, I just loved themed entertainment. I've always loved that, like going into a park and walking around and just seeing how you would walk between the different, especially back then at Great America. A lot of Six Flags parks don't do this anymore. Each land had its own sort of theme and different music. So you would walk into the Yukon territory, you heard the Yukon music, and then you'd walk into County Fair and you heard that like Americana music. And the front Carousel Plaza had this like very carnival-y carousel theme to it, and like just walking in between and how it would take you into different sections and your whole mindset would change. And I loved, from a young age, I was fascinated with that and really loved it. So it's kind of a long answer to your simple question, but I've just always loved that, obsessed with Walt Disney, you know, his whole story and how he started everything. And I just love the business. I love the industry. I don't know. I'm genuinely obsessed with it. It's not a gimmick. People ask me all the time, like, is this just like a joke? You found something in the news to get clicks or something. And it's just not, that's not accurate. Like I'm a true enthusiast. I love this stuff.
Well, the clicks, they come, but that's because the content is good, not because you're doing it for shock value. So
right.
That's
it helps when you get a double rollback on camera on, you know, Top Thrill Dragster. Like that's something you can't plan for that. You can't go up and like hit the button on the ride, be like, I love, that was my favorite thing you mentioned about that. I got so many comments from people like, Cedar Point set that up. They set it up so he would get that on video. Like, you can't set it up. You can't like program the ride to be like, rollback, double rollback this time. Like you can't, it was just like perfect. That was and sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here, but that was like you mentioned it was the opening weekend at Cedar Point. They lost a bet with Great America when the Cubs beat the Indians in the World Series. Like they were the Cleveland Indians at the time. And they had to rename it Top Thrill Cubster. So I went out there for that, being from Chicago, and they put a GoPro on the ride for me to ride it. And it was like a rainy kind of like dreary morning. It was chilly. So the ride wasn't, if you ever been on Top Thrill Dragster, any of those rides, like if the weather's not great or if it's windy, there's just so many things fighting against it. So that was the day you were likely to get a rollback. And we got 2 in a row. And then on the last one, the third launch, they actually emptied half the train because the train was too heavy to get over the top. So that's why when you watch the video on the third launch, it's like people disappeared. They didn't like vanish into thin air, like, you know, Manifest or something. It was just, they had to get some people off to get us over the top there. So, anyway, you brought it up and I haven't thought about that in a while, but that was definitely a highlight of my career to have, especially to have that on video, because people have gotten rollbacks, but to have it on video as a memory, it was really cool. And
to have it on video twice, you're like,
I know.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I think you and I have definitely a very similar backstory. I feel like I grew up in Florida, so we would go up to Disney and Universal. Mm-hmm. Right about the time, right before I moved to North Carolina, I had my first like big roller coaster ride on the Incredible Hulk. It was like ripping the Band-Aid off. I completely get it, and it's awesome that's a story I feel like for so many people. It's like, oh, I really like this. Let's continue to do it. You know, growing up in Chicago and staying kind of in that area, have you seen kind of Six Flags Great America grow up as you've grown up?
Meaning the park, like the park evolved kind of?
Yeah.
That's a really interesting question. There's a lot of things I miss, you know, about the old Great America. Like I miss like I was mentioning, I'm a geek. Like I miss that original music that was in the park. And it's really interesting. Like it's been really cool for my job to get to know so many of the people there. And, you know, Six Flags has changed ownership over the years. It's changed parent companies. Great America, I should say, has changed parent companies, has changed CEOs, and just policies have changed and shifted. But the one thing that's been pretty constant is the people that are there really do care about the place. So many of them that are in charge there now have worked there for a long period of time. I think the park president, John Kraniak, right now, I think he's been there like 30 years or something. And they're good people who are like, the one thing I've also learned is like, it's a business and you have to make decisions. Actually, I have a video posting on my YouTube channel later today about Holiday in the Park, which was a experience I loved there. when they did it at Great America for about I think there was like 4 or 5 years they did it, and it just kind of ended, and they had to make that decision because it wasn't making the money that it made. And so I guess I'm a little bit more sympathetic to them because it's a business at the end of the day, and it's a huge company, and you have to make decisions based on that. But as far as like the evolution of the park, there's like, it's just been interesting to see, as much as sometimes I think Great American people complain, like, I don't know if it's complaining, but we get critical of like some of the decisions there. We're pretty darn lucky to have that as our home park. Like, there's some really cool rides there. We've had some really neat first, like the first ever B&M Iron Wolf was there. Batman the Ride was the first like B&M invert, which is like a legendary thing now. Those are everywhere. Gosh, I remember when that opened and waiting in line like 3.5 hours to ride it, or soon after it opened. It was just so, yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'm answering your question or not.
No, you definitely are.
There's so much has changed there, but so much has kind of stayed the same at the same time. So yeah, it's just, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm drawing a blank. Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
To me, it's one of the, what I would consider a crown jewel of the legacy Six Flags chain. I mean, they're the parks. It's still got some of its old, maybe a little bit of character left over from those Marriott years. Obviously a roller coaster like the Demon, it's a classic, has that crazy kitschy soundtrack that is fantastic they brought back. So the one time I visited, and it's been far too long, this was before Max Force opened, so I need to get back up there, especially with something we're getting ready to talk about here in a little bit. But I really, really enjoy Six Flags Great America. And I mean, obviously I'm very blessed to have Carowinds as my home park, but I'm a little jealous that you get to have Great America as yours. So. Yeah,
and as I mentioned, John Kraniak, he was just presenting at our the Gurnee Village Board. It's Great America's in Gurnee, Illinois, and the Village Board was hosting like the local shopping mall, the Great Wolf Lodge there, and the Great America, to just present about how the business is going and that sort of thing. And one of the things he mentioned in his presentation is that last year, Six Flags Great America was like the most profitable of all the parks in the entire chain, basically.
Wow.
For the period that it was open, like the margin that they did was tops. Like they did great business last year. So I don't know what the specifics of that, but basically what he was saying is they are like in the very top of the chain. Like they're doing very well here, which is great. I mean, it's good. It's good for us as locals because the parent company will see the value in this park moving forward. And yeah, I think it's a testament to them that they continue to get people through. And you mentioned, we'll talk about what they're adding, obviously, but to me, it's like the Wizard there is my favorite ride at Great America. It's just like that old Schwarzkopf family ride. My kids love it. It's a ride that like everyone, and the fact that the ops team and everybody else is like really dedicated to keeping rides like that open and keeping them going. They don't see it as like a lost cause and has been like, we'll run this until it's dead. They really do care about it. Another thing that I love about them that they did last year, I don't know if a lot of people know this. I've talked about it, but they've got a observation ride at the front of the park. If you've been there, you Skytrek Tower. It's one of these old like Intamin. You get up in there, it kind of spins around at the top.
Yep.
And it got struck by lightning last year, and they had to replace the motor on it, and they hired a helicopter to come in to like bring the new motor in. This thing's like really old. Like a lot of places could be like, forget it. They did all this work to get it back up and running, spent all this money, maintenance hours and everything. They could have easily retired that and just had it up there as a showpiece or something. But the fact that they're still dedicated to that, keeping the old classics going, really trying to do that in an era where I am sure that they're working with a lot less than they would like to work with budget-wise, just for how the industry's going and what's going on across the board. So to me, I love that. I love that they're still trying to keep the old going while adding in the new that they're doing this year.
For sure. I've got to ask a little bit about your day job before we get back into the coach enthusiasm. You know, you've been with WGN Morning News since 2013 is what your bio says. So we're looking at 12 years. And some of that you've had some, roller coaster segments. I know you had a podcast that WGN had that was Coast in the Country that has kind of evolved into a YouTube channel. How do you balance your when we were booking this podcast, you told me you work some less than conventional hours. So how do you balance your coaster enthusiasm with your day job and your ability to kind of interject that coaster enthusiasm when you get the chance?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, yeah, you mentioned that. I actually started at GN in 2009, but I was working on the evening show at the time. So I've been there a while. And before that, I was at another station in town called CLTV, which was our sister station. It doesn't exist anymore. Mm-hmm. But so for 20 years, I've been working in TV in Chicago, which is crazy. But really, it started with, like I was saying, I was doing feature reports at the time. I was like the station feature reporter. Mm-hmm. And one of the things, Great America opened X-Flight. And so they sent me over there to do that story, talk to the guys from B&M, which was cool. And the story went really well. Like I said, it was me kind of having fun on the ride. And they were like, oh, that was a good time. And then a couple of enthusiasts who were there at the time said, hey, you got to go down to this place called Silver Dollar City. They're opening a ride called Outlaw Run. And they were telling me all about it and telling me about RMC. Like, I didn't really know much about RMC at the time and just what the ride was going to do. I'm like, oh, okay. So I reached out to the Silver Dollar City people, and they were like, yeah, you should come down. So I went to my boss, and I said, hey, look, I think this would be fun. If I drove down there, I could blog on our website on the way down, stop at different places as you're driving to Branson, ride this crazy wooden roller coaster that goes upside down multiple times, do a story, and then drive back. And he was like, okay, try it. So I did that, and we got a ton of traffic for it on the website, and people loved the story. It was really unique, and it was fun, and that started the whole segment of coasting the country. I'm like, hey, I'm going to coast the country. I'm going to drive around to go to different coasters, and did some live on the rides, and they did a lot of traffic on our website and social media and stuff, and people just kind of knew me as that. But it's what I tell people, like, it's still a very small part of my job. You know, this morning I was anchoring our newscast this morning. So there's actual news that happens in that period of time. Right. So I have a trending news segment that I do every day on WGN in the morning, where every hour I come on, I talk about the stories that people are sharing on the internet, people are talking about, and I'll slip in some theme park news in there. So this morning I talked about Kingda Ka getting demolished and what that was like, and how people were feeling. That made me sad, by the way. Did that make you sad?
It did. I mean, yeah. It's one of those things, and we're recording this a little bit in advance, but
yeah, sorry.
It's okay. We're fine. That's everybody who's listening to this podcast knows that on February 28th, the day we're recording this will drop, I believe, March 10th.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good. I'm not. Listen, the suspension of disbelief in this podcast, we're free to talk about whatever. But yeah, Kingda Ka, for me, I wrote it 9 years ago, 2016, because I had to look this up. I thought it was fine. And it's really cool that, you know, it was the tallest in the world. Yeah. It was the fastest for a long time. But for me, it was a ride that was over before it started. And it was like, okay, it's cool that it exists. It was, for me, growing up as a coaster enthusiast, it was like you would always see pictures of this giant green coaster in New Jersey. And it became this bucket list aspirational coaster. But, you know, as you ride more and more of these things, you know, it's really cool to look at, but there are better experiences out there.
Of course. And I agree with you 100%. And when they announced that it was coming down, I was like, I totally get it, because I know what they were spending on the money to maintain that was insane. Like, it just made sense, and it was a nightmare. But at the same time, when I saw that come down, I had this like emotional reaction. Like, no, it's like a roller coaster being destroyed. Like, what do you do? I don't want to see any roller coasters destroyed. I want to see them built. It was just, I don't know. It was this weird, I'm like, wow, I'm having like an emotional. So I talked about that on the air a little bit today. Yeah. So that's why I brought that up, because that comes out. My coworkers make fun of me. Like, are you okay? What's wrong with you? You know? So we have fun, but so those are like little snippets that I put on the air in between the regular day job that I'm doing. And so I created this sort of whole persona of I'm the WGN roller coaster bureau chief of the roller coaster bureau at WGN. Of course, there is no such thing as a roller coaster bureau at WGN. It's something I completely made up. I'm the chief of it because it's a bureau of one. And everyone kind of makes fun of me for it at the station, in good fun. You know, it's in good fun. It's kind of become my thing. And so it's just it's a small part of the job, but it's funny. It's the thing people know me most for. And
Right.
people will come up to me. There are some people in the audience that complain. And they say, all you do is talk about roller coasters. And to them, I say, actually, if you look at my body of work, the coaster talk is probably 5% of what I do. But it's so impactful, that's all you remember. So it must be making an impact on everybody if that's what they know me for, even though 95% of the time I'm not talking anything about roller coasters. So that to me means that it's a good thing. And the station knows that the reason they allow me to continue to do this is because people like it. And the numbers don't lie. Like, people watch the content, they like it, they kind of know us for that. Nobody else in the market is doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So why not?
And if you're creating roller coaster content, it's nice to have access to a news helicopter.
Yes.
I mean, that's what it comes down to. I know there was you recently put out a video about Wrath of Rakshasa, which this is a great segue actually to Six Flags Great Adventures shiny new toy that's going to open later in
Great America.
Oh my gosh, I'm on it.
I think if they put a 170-foot dive coaster at Great Adventure in Kingda Ka's place, I think people would be disappointed.
100%.
Right? Yeah, they got to go a little bigger than that, I think.
They're promising a great launch coaster.
I know, I know. So, I think they'll put something interesting there. But go ahead.
Six Flags Great America. Freudian slip there. I apologize.
Yep.
Wrath of Rakshasa. They're getting a 170-foot dive coaster. What's the Chicago scuttlebutts? Chicagoland area. What are their thoughts on what Six Flags is doing and how this is being built and the level of excitement for the park?
Yeah, and I think this is the difference between enthusiasts and general public, right? Is I've been on, gosh, I was trying to count the other day. So I've been on the one at Busch Gardens down in Tampa, Cedar Point, went up to Yukon Striker. So I've been on like 3 or 4 dive coasters now. So once you've been on a bunch of these, you know what they do. You know what to expect. You know what it's going to feel like and all of that. But I mean, the 98% of the people in Chicago have probably never been on one of these unless they've gone to Cedar Point, most likely. So when people see this, their first reaction is, what in the world? Like, I have to hang there over this drop. People are very excited about it. Like, the excitement level is really, really high. And honestly, I'm excited too, even though I've been on a bunch of these, because of sort of where they put it in the park is really unique. I mean, it's right in the middle of Great America. Where it was, there was like this Buccaneer Battle, really small kids boat splashing ride there. It's right across from where Demon is, if you've been to Great America before. And they're going to go right over the midway. So you're going to be walking under this coaster as you're going through the park. There's going to be great vantage points for watching people. It'd be a great people watching ride. Even if you're not brave enough to ride this thing, you're going to be able to watch people on it. It's going to be really fun to do that. So I'm personally thrilled about it. I think it's a great addition to the park, like with all the different types of rides they have. And it'll just, it's funny. Like this year, was it this year or last year? Raging Bull turned 25 years old. There's still an hour-long wait for that ride. People love Raging Bull. They love these B&M rides. And so I think it's going to be a huge hit for them. And it's been fun. I've just been posting pictures because I live right down the street from Great America as the first drop's been going up, and the pictures have been like blowing up all over my Facebook and everything else. So it just shows you like people are really excited about it as they're driving by. It's the first coaster in like 6 years or something that they've had at Great America, which is crazy because we used to get a coaster every other year there. So I think it'll be huge. I think it'll do a big number for them, and hopefully it leads to more things down the line. But, I'm not sure what the Six Flags direction is as far as adding capital, in the future, but at least we got this one. And I think it'll be big for the park. For sure. And again, we're recording this a little in advance, but today the park put out the visuals of those trains. It's those 7 across 3 row, really nice maroon and gold color, going to pop against that blue track. So one thing you talked about the pictures. Is it absurd to you that it's just 3 giant supports holding up that entire section of lift and drop? Yes.
Okay.
It's wild. It's wild to me that there's only, it looks like 4 sticks, like holding up this thing. But it's cool. Like that. It's amazing how much things have evolved. And when you look at, Raging Bull is right there and compare that to this, like you see like the evolution of B&M. almost when you're at Great America, because you've got Batman the ride, then you've got the Superman flying coaster, you've got Raging Bull, which is 25 years old now, which is crazy, and it'll be 26, I think, and then you've got this. So, and if you go back to Iron Wolf, like when I grew up, it's just neat to see like how they've evolved over time. And it'll be very interesting to ride it. They've also said that there's going to be some kind of like theming element in the queue. We have no idea. We still don't know where the queue is for this, like where people are going to get in line, where they're going to manage to put all these people, because there's going to be a lot of people riding it. So I'm very curious to see what they plan to do with that. But I'm actually going to tour the construction site here in a few weeks. So I'm excited to go out there and check that out once they're ready to have us in and take a look around. Maybe they'll make an announcement about that, about what we can expect to see when we're getting in line and what kind of other elements there might be as far as theming and things go.
Yeah, the story of the Rakshasa,
the name,
the whole everything, and the spirit, or what, it's a demon related thing. I remember from Googling Rakshasa when it was first announced. So it is exciting. And I think with Six Flags as a whole, now that they're kind of Cedar Fairifying a couple of their rides and giving them stories, I think there's the potential for a really good backstory here between Wrath of Rakshasa, the demon, the whole thing.
Yeah. And that was another thing. People have kind of knocked the name too. It's kind of hard to say and it's weird, but for the longest time, like every park was just getting Goliath, or, it's like recycling the same names, and everyone complained about that. So now they come up with something truly unique and very kind of strange and weird, and everyone's complaining about how stupid it is. So I don't know. To me, they swung for the fences with it, and it's been fun. We had the American Coaster Enthusiasts do this No Coaster Con event, and they presented at that. And when they were talking about Wrath of Rakshasa, every time they did the name, they made like a joke about the name. So, the person presenting was like, oh, and Wrath of Shaka Khan will open on this day, whatever. It's just, so they were acknowledging the, different, how different the name was. So it was fun that they were having fun with it, but I like that it's different. You're probably not going to see this name recycled at another Six Flags park, I'm guessing. Maybe, but I doubt it. Yeah. So it'll be unique and special to us, which is cool.
For sure. And as you noted earlier, 98% of Chicagoans probably going to call it the blue one that goes straight down.
Yeah, or Wrath,
Or Wrath.
That's what it will be called. So
I love it.
Yeah. It'll be fun. And there's so many people here who've never been on a dive coaster. And the dive coaster is all about the drop, and you could go on it with your whole family sitting across from each other. It's just a fun time. It's just fun. And there's a lot of cool elements on it. I like how there's no mid-course stop with this one, like the other dive coasters have, where you stop and then dive a little bit again. It's just straight go the entire time. Some of the inversions look really well planned out. So I'm just excited to go there and see it, and I'm just glad they're getting another coaster after all this time. For
sure. And as an East Coaster, to me, we're going to kind of move a little bit.
Yeah,
you're in the Midwest region. As the East Coaster that I am, the Midwest is like a foreign country to me, basically. But there's some exciting things happening in that neck of the woods, namely Siren's Curse at Cedar Point, which I know you also recently did a YouTube video kind of going frame by frame on the POV, which we can agree was completely sped up, right?
Yeah, that was my thing when I was watching. I'm like, wow, this is really fast. But maybe it's a really fast lift hill, like the Dollywood new lightning rod. But it's like, wow, this is really fast.
Yeah.
Either way, I think it's going to be quick. I mean, it was probably sped. Of course, it was sped up, but like I think that it'll be quick through the, all the elements and everything when you're zipping around through there. But yeah, no, Cedar Point is only about 4.5 hours from Chicago, so it's a lot of Chicagoans go there. That's kind of like that was always the big competition park, I think, for Great America. But now that they're the same team, it's weird.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm excited about that too. I've never been on it. Have you been on a Tilt Coaster before?
I have not.
Me neither.
It's I haven't ridden a roller coaster out of this country yet. So with the only one being in Taiwan, Vietnam, a Eastern Asian country that I'm not on top of right now, but I've not. I'm excited for Siren's Curse to open, but also the one at Codaland down in Texas when that eventually opens. I think we're finally getting them in the U.S., so it's going to be a little easier. A little easy to get to.
Like the dive coaster, I do wonder, like, is it just a gimmick? Like, once you do it once or twice and you go through it, is it the tilt part's cool and then the rest of it's underwhelming? The layout to me looks fun either way, and I think all the new Vekoma rides they've been top notch lately. I think Vekoma's been killing it as far as like smoothness and fun and everything. So I'm excited about that. But listen, I just think it's cool that some unique things. I mean, and you know, the whole backstory of that ride was supposed to be somewhere else, and Cedar Point kind of lucked into it. It's getting a new coaster
somewhere else, and supposed to be somewhere else. And...
Right. Yeah. So. And it was interesting when I did that video, I talked to Tony Clark and he brought that up. Like, you know, this ride was supposed to be at one of our other parks, and they kind of last minute was like, oh, we have to throw together a new ride and a new story and put it in. And that's why it's opening when it's opening, because they really got it late in the game. So they're slapping it up, and we'll see when they actually get it up and running, but hopefully all goes smooth. And man, hopefully Top Thrill 2 is running. And then if you're a Cedar Point person, you're getting like 2 coasters in one season.
Exactly.
Those caliber, which is cool. If Top Thrill 2 is up and running like they say it's going to be, I hope it is. But that's an amazing year. And then they're building something else in that other spot that they have maybe for next year or the year after that. So
it's wild. And you know, even going back to the year prior to that, Wild Mouse, the spinning coaster there on the boardwalk. I mean, it's been a good couple of years at Cedar Point for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
What are some other coasters you're looking forward to? I know if you're coasting the country, do you have a sweet spot of like a driving distance from Chicago where you're kind of focused on, or have coaster will travel in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of that way right now, where I'll go where something interesting is. The station. So the station will. How do I put this? Like, there's a lot of things I go to kind of just on my own. Like, I'm on a trip. I'm like, all right, I want to go do this, and I'll make content out of it, and I'll air it on TV, this or that. There's a few things. I mean, this year I'll definitely be down to Epic Universe. That's happening at the end of May. So as of right now, I'm trying to hope that Epic Universe's media events don't coincide with Great America's media events. And so I've been putting like things out there like, hey, could you please coordinate with each other and not have things on like the same day? Like, what are we doing here? But you know, I'd also love to go I've been up to Canada's Wonderland before and actually drove up there. That only took me like 8 hours or something like that. It wasn't as bad of a drive as I thought, but driving through Canada was pretty cool.
Nice.
So I'll do that. Of course, Dollywood, Silver Dollar City, I love to go to. They don't have anything necessarily new this year, although Dollywood will, I think, start promoting and teasing whatever they've got coming in the next month or two, from what I understand. So they're working on something cool for 2026, hopefully. And then, of course, Silver Dollar City's got their resort that they're opening down there. And there might be another attraction, I'm guessing, opening around that time as well. So I'm excited to. I love that place. You've been there? I love that place, man.
It's one of my lists. We just
you haven't been there yet?
I know.
You have to go. It's hard to get to. It is. That's the knock on that. You got to fly into like Springfield, Missouri, and rent a car or something. That's why I drive. It's a pain in the butt, but it is. As far as themed place, it is a really unique and cool place.
Yeah, we just had Joey Thorson and Dalton Fisher on the podcast a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, Dalton's the best.
They were both fantastic, and they were lambasting me a little bit about my inability to have gotten to Silver Dollar City. And I tell them every time I talk to them, it's on the to-do list. There's a lot of places that are on the to-do list. Silver Dollar City is probably 1, 2, or 3 at this point.
You know what mine is? It's Six Flags Fiesta Texas. That's on my list of shame on me for never getting down there. Just because I've had so many interactions with Jeffrey Siebert online, and everything that guy does to me is he's amazing. I have to go there and just do everything at that place. But it's hard to get from Chicago to get to San Antonio. That's another thing. Like, it's a longer flight. It just doesn't. It hasn't worked out for me at this point. But Holiday World too, I love. Went there last year to ride their new family coaster, which was awesome. So what else is opening that I'm missing? I feel like there's something else. The Canada's Alpine Fury, I think, is really cool. Oh, Lost Island I haven't been to yet, which is not too far from Chicago. And they've got Fire Runner, their single rail coaster. I was just chatting with them the other day. I've never been out there yet to that park.
That park is such a good time. I was out there for a work trip and got in my rental car, drove 2 hours from Des Moines or whatever it is, 2.5 hours, and kind of sped run through the park. And fortunately, it was easy to do because there weren't that many people there.
Right.
Matagani is fantastic. I'm really glad Sweden and Liseberg were able to part with that and it came stateside. But the real hero to me there is the
dark ride.
The dark ride. Oh
yeah,
my
everyone
God.
says that.
It is so good. And to think that it's not at Disney, it's not at Universal, it's not at a Six Flags park. It is at a family-owned park in Waterloo, Iowa. It's amazing. So
yeah, and it's like somebody built a brand new theme park, and people, I mean, it's like their challenge is getting people to go to it, right? And it's been a challenge, and so I feel like I have to go there and check it out and do this. I think it's a great story of people taking a risk, investing all this money, building what they built in the middle of, like you said, Waterloo, Iowa.
Exactly.
Some of the attractions that they put in there, it's cool. That's my list this year is I have to figure out to get there, and I'm trying to coordinate with them when I've never been on a single rail coaster either. So that'll be cool to go and do that there at that park. So hopefully that puts some more people in the gates at that place, because you want to see like new parks succeed. You want to have other people, try to do this. But yeah, so that was one that came to mind. And I've never been out west to Magic Mountain. I've never been to Magic Mountain, never been to Knott's Berry Farm. I've never been to the California's Great America. I'd love to do that before that closes. But to me, it's like all about I'm obsessed with Epic, man. Like I'm just obsessed with it. I'm at the point now when we're talking, like, do I stop because the team members are going in now and people are going to be writing stuff? Do I not want to know? Like, do I just cut it off? But I can't do it. I can't. No. I like every tweet. I've like every notifications on all these people I know might be in there. Like, I want to know everything about it. And I'm wondering, like, am I setting myself up for disappointment because I have such like this high excitement level, and I have this fear that I'm going to go there and I'm going to ride everything so fast and be like, okay, now what?
Yeah.
Right.
Now we wait for the next park.
I know. I'm just so excited. I'm so excited, and it's such a cool time. I've never been at a brand new park, like been to brand new lands and rides and things, but a whole new theme park with a hotel in it and all that. It's just going to be. I'm excited for it, and I've gotten to know a lot of the Universal people too over the last probably 4 years or so, and there's just good people down there who are really excited and fired up about what they're doing and trying to catch up to the big boy down the street. This is a fun story. It's a fun story. It's really a fun story, and hopefully it's a success. So then Disney's got some pressure to not keep up. Not that they need to keep up, but all right, we got to kick it in gear as well and keep adding stuff here so we can keep everyone happy. It's good for everybody if competition's successful. So
for sure, we love it. I'm very excited. I want to know, on the subject of Epic, they've got their 4 coasters. Which one are you going to first?
Oh man. I think I think it's got to be Stardust Racers. Like that is the thing that I like. What overall would you go to first at Epic? I'm really interested in the Monsters ride. Like I'm very, just from everything I've heard about that and the people that are doing it. I mean, Velocicoaster is my number 1 coaster. And so the fact that the guys who did that are working on this, like it's going to be top notch and amazing. But, I think Stardust looks awesome. It just looks crazy and fun, and the airtime looks great. So that would be, to me, is probably what I would go to first, because I'm hoping that, say if I go on like opening day, I would hope that everybody would run to like Super Nintendo World or something, or the Harry Potter thing. And then that would leave like Stardust open. I could just marathon it. Probably never likely to happen. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I just hope that like, all these kids are going to go there. The Harry Potter geeks are going to go there. The Monsters people are going to go there. And then there's going to be this big roller coaster just for me to ride over and over again.
Just Zen ride, just for you.
It's a dream I have. I did that sorry, I keep talking to you. I'm sorry.
You're good.
All your time. But I went to the Tiana's Bayou Adventure Media Day. I got invited to that at Disney World. And it's a long story, but they had some weather in the area, like some rain and everything. So they were supposed to have this like little cocktail party for the media outside of the ride, where you could ride the ride and like eat some finger foods and have some drinks or something. So they had to move it inside to the Contemporary Resort, which is like down the street, a little bus ride away, basically. And so they still had the ride open. So you could either go to like the cocktail party or go to the ride or take a bus back and forth. Well, I'm telling you, 99.9% of the media was at the party. And it was me. There was maybe one or two other people. And I had Tiana's Bayou Adventure and Big Thunder Mountain open all to myself. And for like an hour and a half, I just marathoned those two things. I got like 15 Zen rides on Big Thunder. I rode Tiana's probably like 15 times in a row. And there's nobody there. It was just, they were just running. I'm like, wow, this is like, I am like whatever celebrity rents out the place. That's how I felt. But it was, so to me, that's where, I don't know, the real true like Coaster Bureau Chief comes out. Like, instead of being at this party where there's this cool food and music and stuff, I'm just like the geek riding these things all over. Because when are you going to get that opportunity? And that's 100%. The coolest thing about the media thing, being in the media and having that kind of access sometimes is the fun. Those are fun opportunities I try to take advantage of. It was that was a cool one.
Well, if you ever need a deputy chief of the Roller Coaster Bureau, I know I'm not based in Chicago, but if you're ever taking applications, let me know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, it's cool. And the other thing I want to say is, like, I do see a lot of like really great either influencers or content creators, people like yourself who are on Twitter, who are on YouTube, and you know, they get disappointed that they don't get invited to media events or, you know, things like that. And it is cool being at the event. And like, my TV station gets me access to a lot of things for sure. We have a big audience, but you can make great content and have great experiences without being at those events. And sometimes being at those events, like, you are pulled in all these different directions where you see the pictures of people at the event, like, oh my gosh, I'm at the event, this is amazing. But really, it's not all it's cracked up to be. Sometimes it's a lot of work. You're pulled around. You're listening to press conferences and things. So I just want to speak to everybody, be like, don't be disappointed or discouraged if you don't get access to that. You can still make amazing. Sometimes the best content comes out of not even being at those events, 100%. You know? So it's a perk and it's cool. And sometimes things happen like that, which are really great. Sometimes you get a double rollback out of it, but sometimes it's kind of nothing. And I don't know, but it's been fun. It's a cool thing.
Yeah. And I've lived definitely both sides of the media event as well. So it is 100% totally get what you're saying there. Before we wrap this up, where can our audience find you? Where can they find your content? And if they're in the Chicago area, when can they watch you on TV? Yeah.
So, that is our TV show is WGN Morning News. We are on every day, 4 to 10 a.m. on WGN-TV Channel 9 in Chicago. You can watch us actually anywhere. We have our own app, WGN Plus, for your smart TV. You can download that if you're a television set watcher still. If not, our app is everywhere, WGN. You can watch us, WGN-TV.com, where my stuff streams. I'm on YouTube. Like, you just search Marcus Leshock. It'll come up. And I'm trying to post more content on there. I'm not like a huge prolific YouTuber. I'm pretty busy with my normal job, but just trying to get that going because I really do enjoy it. And there's so many people on YouTube, like, as you know, like just right now. So that's pretty neat. And then just everywhere on social media, you know, at Marcus Leshock, TikTok, Twitter, X, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. So I'm a pretty easy guy to find. And I just want to say thank you to you, man, for having me on today and giving me this. It's fun to talk. And, I appreciate everybody who's supported me over the years, who's liked the video or shared it and just offered some encouragement as far as what I'm doing, because, you know, it's different and it takes some work sometimes, but I just appreciate everybody watching. And I hope this just continues to grow. I see sometimes people arguing and getting bitter with each other in this community, but, you know, at the end of the day, we all just love this, right? We love theme parks and we love roller coasters, and we can disagree and, have good conversations about what coasters are good or not, but I hope it stays there and we keep it going, man.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, it's roller coasters are fun. Theme parks are fun. Why can't we just keep it that way?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think for the most part it does. And every once in a while there's some drama that's entertaining that I enjoy, but it's good. I appreciate you, man. Thanks for, taking the time with me today.
Absolutely. This was awesome. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Coaster 101 podcast. After you follow Marcus on all forms of social media, you can follow us. We're at Coaster 101. That's the word coaster, which you probably know, 101. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it these days, YouTube, TikTok, everywhere. Also, a website, if you prefer the written word, coaster101.com. We've got our merch at c101.co/tpublic. If you're listening, make sure you're liking, rating, reviewing, subscribing, and all of the other content buzzwords. Because the more people who listen, the more great guests like Marcus we will continue to bring on. So, appreciate everybody listening, and we will talk to y'all again soon. See ya.